So enjoy.
Trekkie and I actually took a romantic boat ride over here. That's how we got to the MDI, so we are well practiced and ready to commentate this delightful trip down the river.
Yeah, they gotta take the scenic route just to see the place, as we haven't quested here enough so far at all.
Oh man, questing here without flying. Oh my goodness, I wish I had a boat myself to actually get through Surmar, but we are going to see, honestly, excelling in RP, and they are zooming on down the Mississippi.
Oh, well, you don't need a boat, you just have the water strider.
Yeah, actually,
it works as a boat.
I don't have a water strider. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Everyone's just hating me right now. Oh man. All right, we're getting back into this. Team Bigpull now, one of the big things that we do actually see coming out from this initial pull, we actually get to look, Trekkie, this is all your forte. We're actually going to jump on with the tank first. We're seeing Sefu's going to be the legendary coming out here, and then also the Skull Flyer.
Yeah.
Soul Flyer, sorry.
Yeah, we can see the legendaries a little bit here. We see them skip the first drive. Nothing uncharacteristic at all. Both teams are actually, honestly, seem to be pulling it. They were having some volcanic there, but I'm not quite sure what happened there. We were looking at Bigpull, and especially the new talents. But right now, we're seeing Bigpull just gonna go up here. I really like them going to the left here, getting some extra percentage and going for that route instead. They just going for the sentry right now, though. Honestly, doing just dealing with 2 cats, however, instead, and those can be very dangerous.
Yeah, those caddies can be very risky. We've seen that plenty of times before. They are not kidding with the damage that they do actually put out. Team Bigpull going for a big pull, though, with those mana worms, bringing them all down. They still have a guard, a construct, and a sentry to go through with this pack. There's just a massive pull coming out from them, and you can actually see their druid deactivating that tower right now.
Yeah, I think this is why we're seeing Team Bigpull shows this map. They knew exactly what they wanted to go for. Honestly, had a little bit slower there. They did pull an double or triple cat pull at the start, because remember, it is teaming, so it has more packs of those, and then just knowing exactly what route to go, everything just dialed down. And Bigpull now being quite a little bit ahead now, pulling this next pack with another extra sentry too, and a sentry on the side too, and then just having to deal with that. I'm gonna be interested to see the next pack after that. It's a little bit more dangerous with an extra arcane elemental there, but honestly, not dealing with that pack yet, just dealing with that second sentry.
Yeah, I know we don't have any mages here, but I do want to time travel for just a second and actually go back to that first pull. We didn't get quite the chance to talk about it that we normally do. One of the main reasons that we actually do see groups skip it is because one mob by itself, it's easy to get past with an in-cap, and it's just not an efficient pull. Only having that one mob, it's not worth an overwhelming, resounding amount of percentage towards the dungeon. Buffy having to deal with all these volcanics here as they do get this pull going, but it's just not usually worth pulling it.
Yeah, I love all the volcanics on the hunter too. Here we see 3 again. They just spawn, depending on how many mobs are up there, they spawn them at range from them. So Team Bigpull having to deal with that construct and making sure that they have that one interrupted and CC'd properly. And honestly, now coming to that pull, so they're a full pull ahead now, so we're gonna be interested to see here when they do end up pulling the boss. Remember, it is tyrannical again, so this bosses will be very dangerous and will take quite a bit of time. And we're gonna see both teams having a rogue, so they can just poison the vial there, so they don't have to deal with the last 25%.
Yeah, and to go back to what you were saying with the volcanic as well, I think the main thing is, especially with teaming, we are going to see a lot of those volcanics coming out, and it's going to be the warlock. He actually did go for, I was saying I might see a Phantom Singularity here. He did actually go for Sow the Seed, so he's pumping out 3.
This is super interesting here. Team Bigpull choosing to pull the boss and a bunch of trash too. This is a little bit of dangerous trash, as they have one of those constructs. They still have it alive at 5%. Just need to make sure that they interrupt that one, have everyone focus that one down, cleaving down the boss. It didn't really benefit them that much, 5% on the boss, but they are basically done with the trash too. So honestly, also on the boss, a little bit ahead now, but they are 1% behind on trash, although Bigpull has a few mobs that they need to kill there. Cheat death going off on the rogue there.
Big spike there, and he's going to take it again. Going to go down, Trekkie.
He took the big spike, and then he got the debuff that makes you have to jump as well, otherwise it will be a magic dot on you, and he wasn't able to cloak it, I guess, or he was just late with it, and that proccing cheat death and then instantly dying after that. Need to use a combat rust.
Sometimes you have to take a deep breath after that cheat death goes off, and that might have cost him those seconds there. Another thing that we do want to note, all of the items for the most part have been taken out of the dungeon that you can use, except for the vial. So we expect to see the vial going off for both of these teams here. That will actually, you'll see the patrol captain run on over near that fountain area, and he'll go take a sip and just die at 25%. We're expecting to see that out both of these teams. I want to jump back on board talking about that volcanic though. It's going to be going on ranged members of the group. And if you actually do see the Warlock being the one who has to take care of that the most, being a very mobile class, can deal with it very well, but BM Hunter is just top-notch at dealing with those volcanics. So that is going to be really strong for Team Bigpull here. Another thing that will aid them on this map pick is their actual team composition.
Yeah, Bigpull being a little bit behind now too, like a lot behind actually. Choosing to pull the boss and trash. Honestly, now going the conventional route. They're going deeper and deeper into Court of Stars now. The boss, as we said earlier, 25%, it triggers that effect, and he's gonna start eating that vial or drinking that vial and just get poisoned and end up dying. So honestly, now doing the trash book that Team Bigpull used with the boss, and it's gonna be interesting to see because Team Bigpull effectively now just killed the boss, and they are done with the boss and all that trash. So honestly, dealing with that trash now definitely ended up working in Bigpull's favor, even if it really wasn't that effective in terms of damaging the boss, but having everything up at the same time just bought them a bit of time.
Yeah, now we're actually not even going to see, honestly, use that strategy that was employed by their region, though, of going backwards and actually going closer to the start of the dungeon and moving through to enter this next phase of the dungeon. And Team Bigpull also going to do the more standard strategy that we were more familiar with. But if you are not familiar with Court of Stars, definitely want to point out how this next area of trash actually does work. It's a little bit tricky. You're basically going to be pulling a specific mob to try to get more or less a mini boss out, and then once you take down all the mini bosses, you're actually able to pull the boss trekkie.
I like what Bigpull is doing there. Is skipping the first trash with an Inquisitor and a bunch of imps, and just going for, I'm guessing they're going for the Enforcer right away if they are lucky to have it on the left. Meanwhile, honestly doing that general pull, it isn't fortified, so I'm not sure if they can't, I doubt they're really scared of that pull, but they deemed it not worth their time.
Well, we've talked about it before, Trekkie. On teaming, sometimes if you have like those double Inquisitor pulls and things like that, you try to just skip Inquisitors, and that might be the reason that they went for it. That may have been their strategy going in here, and then they actually get there and they just screech on past it. Now we are going to see that Enforcer with the Inquisitor pull.
Yeah, Bigpull just dealing with that first Inquisitor, gonna spawn that first mini-boss lieutenant, so to say. They're at the exact same percentage trash percentage too, so Bigpull now choosing to get a little bit of trash for that mini-boss too, because that mini-boss just really doesn't do anything. She does a very, very small AoE whirlwind kind of effect. They just have to move out a little bit. Tank going a little bit low here, looks a little bit dicey, but they should be able to keep themselves up pretty well. Meanwhile, honestly, just dealing with that Enforcer on the edge of that, trying to line of sight the big AoE fell explosion she does.
This is the part of the dungeon that always tends to go south, right? If you're on fortified here, this ends up being a mess. Honestly, being a little bit sloppy here with their pulls, we're actually going to see them lose 2 DPS. They're going to full wipe.
This is going to be full wipe. They weren't able to. They looked like they mispulled those imps that are kiting around there. I'm not quite sure with what or if they just ran into them, but they had a little bit of issue because they weren't tanking that. They were starting with the Enforcer at the corner and then line of sighting it, but then got one explosion. Everyone got that debuff. It still, even if it's not fortified, it still does a ton of damage, gives that debuff to everyone, and then getting the second explosion too. That is probably the messiest pull we've seen so far from Honesty, and well, it happens sometime.
I would definitely agree. I think this is probably the messiest pull that we've seen out of them in the entire Mythic Dungeon Invitational, and this will give Bigpull an opportunity here to pull ahead. I think the big thing is they entered this one behind a dungeon. This is their map pick, and they're looking flawless with all of their trash pulls. They only have 1 death so far on the board, and already they're getting very close to being able to pull this first boss. And what we were saying before, honestly, actually did go down. Now this is going to be a big pull from Team Bigpull. Gorfiend's going to pull everything in here. Tree of Life coming out from the healer, trying to keep everybody healthy here. And that Tree of Life is going to be important when they get to the boss as well. And some major damage coming out from the rogues. They both have cheat death, so they should be safe here. And alongside a Tree of Life, they are hanging out in the shade of creation. They should be absolutely fine as they do finally bring down this Enforcer. And now they're going to move on to the Lieutenant. But that is a cooldown on Tyrannical that you really want to use when you get in onto that second boss. Talk about this being scary on Fortified when you're actually dealing with those Enforcers and you have to be breaking line of sight and doing things like that on your way to the Lieutenant, on your path to the boss. But on Tyrannical, this dungeon can be terrifying.
Yeah, Bigpull really living up to the name there. Had a little bit of a shot here, and we saw the healing cooldowns because they weren't able to actually line of sight the big explosion because they just needed that extra DPS instead. So really interesting to see from Team Bigpull here, and we can see the legendaries now for the rest of the Druid as well as their talents. But right now they're just dealing with this next Lieutenant, just dealing a little bit of damage. It focuses a player and gives him a damage dealing debuff. It's interesting that you can actually line of sight as well doing the first cast, but it's not really that big of a deal. He goes on the rogue now as well, and it's just a little bit of damage. But honestly, now dealing with a bit of trash back here. They're quite a bit behind now with both percentage, and I think they're a full Lieutenant behind too.
I like the fact we are seeing Prydaz come out from the healer here for safety, and you could also see in the talents definitely running that Tree of Life ability. That's going to be important for those big pulls, and also when you do get to the tyrannical bosses, definitely when we do get to that final boss as well, honestly trying to catch back up here. We'll have to see if more players start to wear Prydaz when they actually do get to this second boss, because that Flame Wreath is terrifying. Like, it's a terrifying boss on Tyrannical, and then it gets even scarier when you actually get to Moandra.
Yeah, that boss is going to do a lot of damage, and it's going to stack up as well. It's very constant damage though, so generally more throughput is a little bit better. Prydaz really excels in those encounters where you have a little bit of spike damage now and then instead of like constant damage.
Like then Thicket, for example, it's really strong because you actually do see it on those bolts coming out time and time again. And I really like what we're seeing here coming out. Onit's Intuition and Impeccable Fell Essence just going to be hands down the strongest legendaries that you can really use. Every now and then maybe you'll see the head get used as well, but every now and then actually switching to the other ring, the Archdruid ring, to get Soul of the Forest as well, but specking into Incarnation here, not having too much trash to pull. We're actually going to see Mayode just sticking to those legendaries, those really strong single target damage legendaries, and just keeping that Incarnation. That is one of the really nice things about the Druid legendaries, is being able to swap your ring and then having those big pulls, having Soul of the Forest based off of the ring, and still having that Incarnation when you get to the boss.
Yeah, it's important to know while we are seeing the legendaries, they are free to swap them however they want between they're in combat with different mobs. So we definitely will see them swap up depending on the bosses, especially like some of the very dangerous ones. Honestly, it's actually two full Lieutenants behind now, and Bigpull is just going to get ready to pull the boss. Meanwhile, honestly, chipping away that second Enforcer, going to get that second Lieutenant, and Bigpull here now pulling Flame Breath.
Yeah, the whole thing with this boss, as well as you're going to see these ads come out, need to make sure that they are dealt with quick damage, but also controlled. Otherwise, they will put out a huge amount of damage to the entire group.
Yeah, those imps are probably going to get Arcane Torment right away so that they get silenced. Actually, they just get stunned and just get destroyed right away. Don't even have time to move. And now the boss also cast a Withering Soul ability. It just kind of needs to be interrupted. You do need to have two interrupters on it though to be able to get everyone. Otherwise, it gives you debuff on the whole group, and you just have to try to dispel it. And you really don't want to spend any time not healing on this fight, as the boss has a stacking damage aura that goes up and up. Right now we're seeing Team Bigpull take a lot of damage from this effect here, and it's just going to be up to the healer if it's going to be able to keep up. He has those cooldowns. He did use on that really big pull. Should be coming up ready if they aren't already for the healer.
That's the big thing. A late Tree of Life in any of these fights can be a lifesaver for sure. You're seeing just how low the group is actually falling here. Flame Wreath at about 33%. Honestly, still trying to catch back up in this one. They're just going for a long stroll at this given moment. Finally getting a pull going here, and Team Bigpull should be able to get this one down. And one of the scary things about this dungeon on Tyrannical, I've already alluded to the fact that Flame Wreath and Melandris are both going to be scary bosses, but as you mentioned, Trekkie, it's stacking damage buffs. It's the main thing that goes on with all these fights, is just the further and further you get into the fight, you're going to see more and more damage, and actually seeing Tree of Life coming out a little bit later there in these late phases of the fight. And you could see during that last 15-20% of health, the entire team, even though the damage is going to be higher throughout the entire last portion of that fight, just being able to keep the team healthy is going to be the Resto Druid inside of that very powerful cooldown. But we got a mystery to solve, my friend.
Yeah, we gotta try to find the whichever one is the spy actually here. So right now they are looking for all the remongers and trying to find whatever clues they have. They are 5 in total, and we'll see how good they are at actually like looking at boss models.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any shortcuts here as well. Looking at the rogue, one of the things that I really do think makes rogues so particularly strong when they get in these mythic dungeons is just their spec works perfectly for it. They don't need to sacrifice for any portions of their damage going into any weird things for survivability as well. It is all inherently there in their kit. And you can also notice that Horn of Valor is going to be there. That is because you can actually use some of the older trinkets, and they are boosted up to that 935 item level. You can see that right there in the gear set. It says gear set 935, artifact set to 965. It's just rogues excel, especially when you give them trinkets like that. And it looks like they finally have found, and this is one of the longest mystery phases I think we've seen. A lot of the times we actually do see the demon hunters and we see the paladins, different things like that, that are able to more quickly identify who the culprit is.
Yeah, luckily for Team Bigpull, they are a little bit ahead, so they could spend a little bit extra time making sure they get the right one. If you do get the wrong one, you actually get teleported out, booted out, and can't ask around for another 30 seconds. So honestly, now pulling the second boss, Frame Breath. Meanwhile, Team Bigpull dealing with this little disguised Dreadlord before they get to actually pull Melanders and enjoy that RP there too. But honestly, 60% less more in the boss. Team Bigpull has to wipe for them to be able to make up for this really now.
I mean, even Team Bigpull, if they decide to have a long sleuth phase, if you will, there's no way that their sleuth phase is going to be as long as it takes to get down Flame Wreath on Tyrannical. And looking at, honestly, they also do have some of these options as well to maybe use something like a Tree of Life in these later portions to make sure that everyone stays healthy throughout the duration of the fight. But Team Bigpull going to be able to get down that big old Dreadlord and move on over to Milan. What are the actual things mechanically that everyone should be taking a look at during this fight track?
The main ability, when you think Melandros, you always think about his slight Maelstrom that does damage, and then he spawns copies of himself. Those also do all the abilities he does. So the longer you get into the fight, the more of those copies you have doing those two. They do spawn after like about a minute and a half or something, so they do end up having a kind of a soft cap, so to say. But there's a bunch of other stuff, and we see here one of the tornadoes is gonna spawn, or it teleports over there, and then a tornado spawns right next to the boss there, and it's just gonna take up a lot of real estate on this small room which you have allocated for you to take him down. He also does like a frontal appears that you just need to move out of. Just don't stand in bad is a generally pretty good idea. And there we see the Slicing Maelstrom does a little bit of damage. That's the first one. And then we're going to see them ramp up more and more, and we're going to see more and more cooldowns to be able to survive those come out later on.
Oh, Zoink's honestly going to be able to solve this one very quick, and suddenly they should be able to get back into this slightly. By no means will they be able to do this without a wipe coming in from Team Bigpull, but they have closed the gap just a little bit here. So they will be able to get themselves started on Melandris a lot quicker than we necessarily thought that they would. But Team Bigpull, it's definitely going to be their game. The ball is in their court. And you can see the real estate gets a little bit sketchy as this fight does ramp up. The Maelstrom Slice is obviously going to increase in damage as well. I think with a Tyrannical Key, we'll actually probably see it hit its peak damage and stay plateaued for quite some time. But we already do know that there is a Resto Druid who has Tree of Life at their disposal. And with how long it took them to actually figure out who the culprit was, who was the Dreadlord hiding out, they may have that cooldown back for maybe the last 30 seconds, 20 seconds of this boss fight. It'd be absolutely incredible. And we are seeing as well some damage coming out from the Resto Druid. So looking really comfortable here. About like 125k coming out. I saw a few rats come out. By no means switching into kitty form to get damage done here, but Bigpull looks very comfortable on Melandris.
Yeah, Bigpull still had a little bit of sketches. They have all the copies up. I believe it's 5 copies at the same time that does those Slice Storm as well. They have another 20% to go. I haven't seen all cooldowns come out. The Hunter used the turn, so there we go, another Slicing Maelstrom. We're probably going to see Tranquility or something big healing cooldown come out there. They might have another one at a very low percentage, but right now it's looking really, really good for Team Bigpull.
Yeah, I don't even think they really need to invest a huge cooldown, but just like that, we are going to see the Hunter go down, and instant BR going to come out as well, and he is just right back into getting those aimed shots out. I think maybe just a Gahanir was actually invested there, but nothing too big. Wild Growth's getting spammed out, Volcanic being dealt with masterfully, but big spike damage going to come out here to the whole raid. I would love to see a cooldown invested, even if it's just for the 3% to make sure that they got it, but please, somebody show me Bigpull's loot, because they are going to look so impressive and tie up this series.
Yeah, well played by Bigpull there, and once again, the story of this series so far, one wipe decides it all. That was another situation where, on that map, it was neck and neck. They looked very convincing. They were both at the same trash clear percentage, both sitting at 69%, and then, unfortunately, honestly, hits that big wipe. And that pretty much decided it right then and there.
Yeah, they had it during an Enforcer too, which means that they did a bunch of damage, invested a lot of damage into the Enforcer, and it looked like an Impact just ran around and just pulled them, and they just couldn't recover from that with the Enforcer being out, couldn't line of sight it, was too much damage, and it ended up costing them a lot, like basically the game. I mean, they might have still had issues, but that was a big deciding factor.
I'm just double checking loot really quick to see if anyone actually got an upgrade from this run, and it looks like nobody got loot. They may have just gotten artifact power, but this is actually really cool. We got to give it up to Blizzard and to production right now, actually finally getting a little bit of insight into how everyone is going to be speccing, into what legendaries they're going to be using, and even though you can be switching gear around throughout the entirety of the dungeon, if you are playing these classes and you take a look, you can kind of get a pretty solid idea of what they're going for, what concessions they're actually taking to single target damage for their AoE damage, where maybe they are switching up those trinkets. So it's been a lot of fun for me today to actually peer into the souls of our players and see what they are thinking.
We saw the Hunter swapping to Pridehouse on the last boss too, and we saw that Shield actually doing quite a